What's up, y'all? Welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be talking about the new Apple M1 Max that just released this week. Apple just had their One More Thing event where they talked about their new M1 chip and the three new devices they're going to be releasing this week, which are the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro 13-inch, and the Mac Mini. So the M1 chip is Apple's new proprietary in-house CPU chip that they have been working on for a few years now. They're finally starting to ditch Intel, and a lot of us saw that coming. Since Intel has been having some struggles recently in the past couple of years trying to innovate. So Apple finally decided it was time to take the CPU game into their own hands and jump in after their mobile processors have been actually doing really well. So the M1 chip has 8 CPU cores and 8 GPU cores. On the MacBook Air 2020 refresh, late 2020 refresh, I guess, which is now. If you get the base model, it has the 7-core GPU, which I'm not really sure how much that'll really show in real life. That 1-core difference, if it'll really make much of a difference. But that's the way it is. And I'm going to show you guys the spec sheet now. So starting on the left, we have the MacBook Air, the Pro 13-inch in the middle, and the Mac Mini on the right. And once you start scrolling down their spec list, it actually looks really weird because it looks like they're exactly the same, right? And something that's a little bit surprising is the fact that the MacBook Pro has 2 hours more battery life, even though it's supposed to have a more powerful chip, which you would think would take more battery. But it's surprising that it has more, so that's actually pretty welcomed. But the fact that all the specs seem really similar makes me think, are we just buying the same computer but in just, different models? But only time will tell with that one. And something that's also a little interesting is if you scroll down, you see that only up to 16 gigabytes of RAM is what's supported. And that's kind of concerning for the select few people who actually need more than 16 gigs of RAM. For the majority of the population, 16 gigs is more than enough. But for those people who do content creation or just any type of program that requires more than 16 gigs, this could be a deal breaker. Luckily, they still offer the Intel Macs that support 3264 upwards of a terabyte of RAM on the Mac Pro and stuff like that. So maybe later when they release the M1X or M2, whatever they're going to call it, it'll support more RAM. So the MacBook Air is actually going to be fanless, and that's huge. If it's still able to do the claimed performance jumps of like 3 times as much as the previous MacBook Air that was released in early 2020, and it's fanless, that'll be huge. For majority of people, MacBook Air is exactly what they need, and having something that's fanless, completely quiet, and can be significantly more powerful is massive. So if those claims are what they really are, and they're actually proved to be truthful, that'd be huge. The 13-inch still has a fan, which means it'll probably be able to sustain higher boost clocks on the CPU. And if it's more powerful than the Pro, the Air is supposed to be really powerful, so if it's even higher than that, better. But that kind of begs the question, the previous Pro owners, do they need to get a Pro now, or can they save some money and drop down to the MacBook Air, and will that handle all they need? In the keynote, Apple's talking about how it can actually do 3 4K streams at ProRes, simultaneously. And I think for a lot of content creators, that's not something they're gonna have to deal with. So if it's able to do that at just the MacBook Air level, the entry level MacBook, then do people really need the Pro? But again, these are all claims made only by Apple, has not gone into reviewers' hands yet, so that's all we will see. The Mac Mini as the third device that comes with the M1 chip. This being the thickest device of them all, has a larger fan and will probably be able to sustain even higher boost clocks for longer periods of time. The M1 GPU that's built in, to the chip, clocks in at about 2.6 teraflops, which is kind of like a way to quantify GPU performance if you're not talking about FPS and stuff like that. And compared to Intel's iGPU and the AMD Ryzen's, that's nearly like double theirs. I think Intel's new Xe graphics that they released recently was able to hit, upwards of 1.1, 1.2, somewhere in that range. And this one's hitting about 2.6. So, I mean, it might be able little gaming machine to run, very basic games. But other than that, something that's huge on it is the almost 50% battery increase that Apple, claimed in their keynote. The MacBook Air being able to hit up to 18 hours and the Pro being able to hit up to 20 hours of battery life. That's massive if that's true. For people who do a lot of on-the-go content creation, especially for those, really long cross-continental flights, not having to worry about if you need to, carry your charger with you is going to be huge. Being able to do 18 hours, that can be, 2 to 3 days, depending on your, power, if you're a power user or not. And that's just the Air. If you get the Pro, which is supposed to be the even more powerful version of the M1 chip, it can do 2 hours more. That's absolutely ridiculous if that's true. And again, these are up to, so under ideal conditions, I'm pretty sure if you're video streaming constantly, you're probably not going to get the 18 or 20 hours that are touted. This is probably for people doing web browsing and things along those lines. But even people who are doing very intensive tasks, what maybe was giving them previously like 4 to 5 hours can now stretch into the 10-hour range. Since the previous MacBook Airs and Pros touted about 10 to 12 hours battery life, this is pretty much double, which is super welcome to see. And the fact that Apple was able to do that with the increased power is pretty much not heard of. So again, heavy asterisks. If these claims are proved to be true, fantastic. It's a game changer. And as far as pricing goes, the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pros prices have not changed. So the MacBook Air still starts at $999 and the MacBook Pro starts at $1299. The Mac Mini, however, did see a $100 decrease, so now it starts at $699, which is actually might be the underdog of the show. Mac Mini, which is supposed to be the more powerful of the bunch, could be a very solid computer for a lot of people looking to do, more at-home work, especially with the pandemic and a lot of jobs who are going to end up transferring to primarily at-home work now that they realize the benefits of not having to pay for office costs and stuff like that. Now, the only issue that comes with that is that the MacBook Air and Pro have their RAM soldered onto the actual M1 chip. Now that means that you can't use or replace the RAM, so you pretty much are stuck with buying the RAM straight from Apple, which usually costs way more than it really should have, which is a pretty big downside, but it's Apple. I can't believe I have to say this in 2020, but we're still stuck with 720p webcams for the MacBooks. They said that they improved the image processing, so we'll see how much of a difference that really makes. By the end of the day, it's still 720p, and really wish they went up to 1080p like they did on the, I believe, 27-inch iMac that came out this year, but maybe next time or at some point. The new MacBooks also come with, and also the Mac Mini, I believe, also come with Wi-Fi 6. No, that's a welcome change. I was surprised that the MacBook that came out in early 2020 didn't have Wi-Fi 6, so that was nice to see. USB 4, which is just basically USB 3.2 adopting Thunderbolt, which is now USB 4. We'll see how much of a difference that makes. It's nice to see again, but it really won't make a difference for a majority of people. For people who are using high bandwidth devices, very, very fast SSDs and stuff like that, I guess. That's nice to see for those. No external GPU support on the M1 chips. Kind of a downside. Again, for like 80% of the population, this won't make a difference. But for those people who like to game a little on their MacBooks, even though I feel like a very minuscule amount of games on Steam or other places even support macOS. But for also there's programs that actually really benefit from stronger GPUs. Won't be able to do that. So hopefully the integrated GPU can really kick in and take over for you in place of where your external GPU is supposed to be. At least that's what Apple is saying. So we'll see. Other little features that it comes with is the instant wake feature, like that we have on mobile phones. The moment you pull your phone out, it's automatically awake. It doesn't have to, power on and stuff like that. So that's nice to see. Not really a huge feature, but I personally would really like to see that. That'll, save time, make things a lot quicker. You might save like 15 seconds, but those 15 seconds add up over time. So, nice feature to see. And something that is going to really bug a lot of people is how's the compatibility going to be with x86 apps? And x86 pretty much being the architecture that AMD and Intel are using. As far as we know, all of the Apple first-party apps are going to be completely compatible with the M1 chip, and a lot of app developers are already working on making their macOS M1 compatible apps. But again, that's going to take time. And for people who are going to use this as a work computer, I would definitely recommend you wait for programs to be updated to support, the M1 ARM architecture. And for people who are just using it, for personal use, I would still recommend you wait. Rosetta is what Apple's using to kind of emulate x86 apps. And we'll see how good the emulation is. Apple's making claims that, in some cases, since the M1 chip is so powerful, there are times where emulated apps actually run faster on the M1 devices than they did on previous MacBooks. So Apple's making some huge claims, but we'll wait and see. And as for me, will I be upgrading? No. I have this 2020 MacBook Air that I got earlier this year. And as far as it goes for me, I really don't need the extra power. I don't really do much on my MacBook. If I'm being honest, that's relatively intensive. It pretty much suits all my needs. The only thing that I could maybe benefit from is, the much higher battery life. So, we'll see. Maybe I will, but as far as right now, I'm not looking to upgrade. I don't really have any necessity that the, new MacBooks can really deliver for me. And for everyone else, I recommend you wait. Do not pre-order. Wait until they're in the hands of reviews. Most of the time, Apple is really good at delivering on their promises, but this is a first generation product from them. So I think we should take a lot of more caution than we do with Apple and wait until it's in the hand of reviewers and you get some more opinions. Personally, I'm not going to be doing a review on any of the M1 devices just because I'm a college student, can't afford it. But if I get lucky enough to actually get some hands-on time with it, then I'll definitely do a review for that. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like down there. Comment down below. Are you upgrading to the new Macs? Are you waiting? What's your thoughts on it? Subscribe for some new videos every single Tuesday. I'm going to leave my socials down there, follow me for some new updates on the videos and stuff like that. And I'll see you guys later.